So today's webinar, as you know, is on volunteer management and orientation. And we are super lucky to have one of my coworkers, Pertula George Red, with us today. Pertula works for DC Central Kitchen, and she is the manager of volunteer programs there. She's been with us for about 9 months, and she's one awesome lady. Before she joined us, she was the executive director of Common Good City Farm here in DC. Which provides hands-on training in food production, healthy eating, and environmental sustainability. So she's been working with volunteers for close to 10 years now, and her really primary specialties besides that are in youth development and sustainable growing. So she can identify with a lot of what you all as campus kitchens do. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her. And we don't seem to be having an issue with feedback right now, but if we are, I'm going to mute it until it's time to ask questions. So, Pertula.
Great. Thank you, Linda. And hello, everyone. And welcome to the volunteer orientation training. And congratulations on all the wonderful work that you all are doing. And thank you for all your hard work. I think you're really awesome for taking on all these challenges and doing all these amazing things on campus. So congratulations again. And I'm so excited to be talking to you all about managing volunteers, and I hope this will be as interactive as we can make it. As Linda mentioned, I've been working with volunteers for close to 10 years, and of course during that time I've experienced all kinds of feelings around working with volunteers, and so maybe joyful, happy, glad, mad, sad, and so hopefully throughout this, at the end of this training, you will be experiencing mostly happy and joyful and glad feelings when you work with volunteers. As you know, volunteers come in all different with all different backgrounds, experiences, and reasons for coming out to volunteer. So we'll talk about all of these things as we go through the presentation. So I wanted to start off with, who are your volunteers? They're definitely your audience because you have their attention when they come to your facility or your organization, your kitchen. They're there eager and ready to volunteer. And I'm sure if you ask them why they want to volunteer, most of them will tell you because they want to give back. But they also want to learn about why they're there and what they're actually giving back to. So in terms of individuals, you may have, students who need to do community service. You'll have folks from the community, whether they're retirees or people who want to spend their time helping out. You'll have groups of people that will, as their team building work requirements, they will come to you to help get the work done. So the first thing you want to do when you meet and greet your volunteers is to set the tone. So you want to be as enthusiastic as you can be and really pump them up and get them eager and excited to be there. So if you meet them and you're, hi, hello, okay, then you're not going to get much from them. So you want to make sure you break the ice. And an easy tip for doing that is, depending on the size of your volunteer group, you can do a quick check-in with them. So you will, if the group is manageable, 10 to 20 or fewer, you want them to get to know each other. Who are they going to be working with? So you can ask them different questions. So you could ask them to say their name, where they're from, and a quick question that will help people get to know each other better. So for example, you could say, so what's the most challenging thing you've done? Or tell us about your favorite volunteer experience or your favorite vegetable to prepare and why. So you can come up with a list of these easy checking questions for you to get to know them, for them to get to know each other, and to just set the tone and get people excited to be there. So folks want to be there because they want to give back. And like I said, they also want to learn more about what you do. They want to feel appreciated, and they want to feel useful. So you have to balance all of that, make it a holistic experience for them so that they leave feeling like they've accomplished something, they've given their time and energy towards a good mission and towards some good goals. Great. So does anybody want to talk about why, other reasons why people volunteer, and what sort of experiences you think they value when they come out to volunteer? And,
yeah. So what types of, why do people typically come to volunteer at your campus kitchen? I'm sure you'll all have maybe different common reasons. If anyone can share with us. And you can either type in the chat box or talk out loud. You're all unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yeah. Some students are really just very enthusiastic and want to help people and do good and all of that. A lot of students want to get volunteer hours because they'll be applying for graduate school or they'll be applying for jobs, and they want to have some experience as a volunteer because it looks good. But I think the ones who stick around and get really involved are just pretty focused, and they end up going into helping professions, in my experience.
That's excellent. That's great, because you as the volunteer manager or the person providing the opportunity, you have a unique opportunity then to engage the volunteers in a deeper way. Okay, so they may be coming in just to get the community service hours or to, you know, feel like they're contributing and helping and making things better, but they would leave with so much information just through engaging in different activities and having discussions and being really prepared and sharing with the group the larger picture, the mission of the organization, and also educating them about ways they can continue to contribute and to be involved, not just with campus kitchens, but in the communities, educating them about, you know, food insecurity issues, homelessness issues, whatever issues that are prevalent in your community, you can share that with them.
Yeah, so we got a couple of other people who typed in. Someone from Wake Forest, which Pertula just said that students volunteer with them, students and faculty, I know they have both, to form a bridge between the campus and the surrounding community to sort of tear down that barrier between town and campus, which is great. We have some others who have to do service that's required through fraternities and sororities. Volunteers who are maybe do-gooders, but also that have mandated service for tickets or other academic violations, and then court-ordered community service as well. I know that many of you get that.
Wow, I'm surprised. I didn't know that you all work with court-ordered volunteers as well. So I work with 50 to anywhere from 50 to 100 volunteers a day, and some of them are court-ordered, and that also requires a whole other area of management. So that's wonderful that you provide that opportunity as well. Great. So volunteers, like I said, come from all different backgrounds. You can learn from each other. You can share expertise. You can have them come back depending on the experience that they get, and they want to stay engaged and continue to contribute, become regular, recurring volunteers. The volunteers love to feel appreciated. You have to always thank them and tell them what a great job they did, and continue to motivate them throughout their time with you. And that way you get high retention rates with your volunteers. So what I'm thinking we can do now is I will just run through what a typical orientation looks like at DC Central Kitchen. We do have 3 shifts a day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and so consistency is key, that every volunteer that walks through the door, no matter what shift they come for, they receive the same information. So I'm just going to pretend that we're in the kitchen somewhat and you're coming in to volunteer. The first thing volunteers do is they sign our electronic liability waiver on our computer in the main room at the kitchen, and once they're done with that, then I welcome them to the kitchen. So in your welcome, you again want to make sure that you're excited that they're there. So your welcome will be, thank you so much for coming out to volunteer with us. We rely on 15 or 14,000 volunteers a year to help us prepare 5,000 meals a day. And you let them know where they are and the significance of the location. So you're in our main kitchen. We prepare 5,000 meals a day. Those meals go to 88 partner social service agencies, and we are grateful for your help today. And then we move into an activity. So typically what I tell them is that, we want to get you physically and mentally prepared for the work that you're about to do. So giving you some context perspective, not just, you'll be cutting up vegetables for 3 hours, but, you're here to learn and understand what we do here. And so that involves a couple of different educational activities I do with the volunteers. One of them is a stand-up, sit-down activity. So I put out about 5 cards on the table and ask 5 volunteers to pick a card. And on one side of the card, there'll be a statement that says, stand up if. And if the statement pertains to anyone in the room, they'll stand up. And then at the back of the card, there's a fact. And so they would read the fact before the next person goes. So say an example, stand up if, so stand up if you're wearing, jeans. So everybody wearing jeans would stand up, and then there'd be a fact in the back of the card. So I have a couple of the cards here. I'll just read one of them. It says, stand up if you think salads are healthy. And then the fact is, the fat in McDonald's fattiest salad exceeds that in its fattiest burger by 3 grams. So immediately they're surprised, they're shocked, because they would have stood up and said, yeah, salads are healthy. So that opens up the conversation around why the salad is fattier than a burger. And you could either have that discussion after each card, or you could wait till the end of the card. So, we talk about this opportunity now to tell them that we prepare healthy meals, balanced meals, and what, I'd ask them why they, the salad is now unhealthy, and they talk about the cheese and the dressing and so on. So there are other facts related to food insecurity and hunger, and at that point I would discuss our culinary job training program and go into detail about what the program does and how many people have graduated and so on. We talk about, there's a fact that talks about food deserts, which opens up the opportunity to talk about the Healthy Corners program and how many stores we work with in food deserts in DC, and that we provide 28 healthy options for folks who didn't have access before. So that's just using this one educational activity, you have people's attention, you have them asking questions, you have them talking, and you're sharing so much of the work that you do. And that way, they want to learn more. They want to continue the discussion when they get into the kitchen. And so we usually close out the activity by talking about our mission and why they're here. And then I introduce one of our production cooks, and she would tell them about herself or himself. Right now we have one staff member who's doing that. And this is perfect because now they get to hear about what they'll be working on and also hear from one of our culinary job training program graduates. And so they hear firsthand the success of the program, how it's impacted lives directly, and then we show a video. And we're going to watch the video now. It's pretty quick, so you get to see part of the safety training, the do's and don'ts in the kitchen.
All right, give us 1 sec.
Hi, my name is Robert Egger, and I'm the founder and president of the DC Central Kitchen. Now, we were founded in 1989 with one basic idea. Imagine what we could do every day if we could get the restaurants, the hotels, the hospitals, all the people in town who had leftover food to donate it. But imagine if we could bring it to a central hub, a central kitchen where we could not only feed more people better food for less money, but we could use that food to train men and women for jobs. Well, ever since then, every single day of the week, men and women on the staff, but also men and women who volunteer, come together in this glorious place, and now in other spots around the city to, again, really deeply explore the power of food, but more importantly, the power of community. I really want to thank you for joining us today as a volunteer. And you're going to be in one of 3 different locations now, right here at the mothership, at the DC Central Kitchen, located in the basement of the biggest shelter in America, right below the capital of the United States, where again we'll produce 5,000 meals. It might be out on one of the trucks doing first helping, where you'll take some of those meals out and really help men and women come in off the street. It might be in one of our great campus kitchens, programs growing around the country, using underutilized school cafeterias to repeat this amazing experiment. You might be over at our new nutrition lab, helping us earn money through our earned revenue social enterprise businesses that are producing locally sourced, cooked-from-scratch meals for DC Public Schools. All the money you help us make, we're going to reinvest over in the job training program, which starts the whole process over again. We're really honored and deeply grateful for your time. And now I'm going to turn you over to my great friend, Rock Harper, who's going to get you acclimated and ready to go. Thanks very much.
Hello. Welcome once again to DC Central Kitchen. You just heard from our fearless founder, Robert Egger. He's got you all revved up. Next, me, Rock Harper, the Director of Kitchen Operations, thanking you first of all for volunteering your time and energy. I'm going to show you what's next. We're going to wash your hands, put on that wonderful apron, give you some tips, and we're going to get you started. So follow me. All right, here we are. How do I look? Beautiful earring, looking good. We want to get rid of that. No loose jewelry, please. Nice warm coat in this cold kitchen. It gets hot even in the cold kitchen. Let's get rid of that. Stay nice and comfortable and safe. Holy gloves, take those off as well. Wash your hands. Last but not least, let's not show off those beautiful legs, as good as they may look. Cover them up so we can stay nice and safe. If you got gum, you want to spit it out. Get ready to change the world, 1 carrot at a time. Okay, so here we are. Step 1. What we're going to do, we're going to lock your belongings in this cage. We have the key. If you need something, just let us know, and to the sinks we go. Part of your volunteering experience here at the kitchen, we send you away with gifts. We're going to send you with this. It's all the talk. It's all the rage. It's a beautiful hairnet. You're welcome to keep it if you do well. Cover that hair up. If not, if you have your own hat, that's totally cool too. We'll go there. We'll put on this second lovely accessory. Plastic apron, tie it up. Now we go to the sinks. All right, here we are. It's the hand sink. We have 3 all around the kitchen. You can go in the restroom if you like, or you can stop right here. We're going to start with hot water and wash our hands. We're going to lather up. Lather up for how long? Either the happy birthday or ABC song. Don't turn it off. Dry your hands. You probably can let the next person go. If you're the last person, you use a paper towel to turn the water off. Then we're going to glove up. We're almost done. All right. We're almost there, ladies and gentlemen. Stick with me. What we're going to do, put on gloves. We have every type of glove you need. Powder-free, with powder, plastic. If you're allergic to latex, let us know if you have an allergy. We're going to put our gloves on and... Oh, I did have to cough actually, but you see, if I cough, you go into your sleeve, not on your hand. If you happen to touch your face, which you don't want to do, or touch something that's not of food, you just take your gloves off, wash your hands, dry them off, re-glove, voila. To the nine. Of all the things you might be doing, you might be baking muffins, helping us clean, maybe some data entry on the computer, but generally, because of all the produce we get, you're going to hold one of these. It's the chef's knife. If you're not comfortable with it, let us know. We're going to have you slicing and dicing and chopping away. In the midst of that, if you have some conversation, oh, the rest gets up. You don't want to do any of that. You don't. Any of that, very unsafe. When you hold the knife, if you're walking with it, you want to hold it down by your side, blade to the back. That's exactly how you want to do it right there. And when you bring it up, you want to cut with it. Hold with your index finger right here, choke up on the blade, give it better control. It's just an onion. Safety, safety, safety. I'm going to slice and dice and cut away and peeling, whatever it is. It might be onions, peppers, carrots. Ask. We don't expect you to be perfect, but just ask if you need further instruction. From all of us in DC Central Kitchen, we like to say, thank you!
Great. And so at that point, I would ask the volunteers if they recognize Chef Rock Harper. So did any of you recognize Chef Rock Harper?
I know some of you did.
Have you all ever heard of Hell's Kitchen?
Sure. I know who he is. I just couldn't hear the question.
Oh, sorry.
Our volume was
No.
turned down.
It's okay. There's a little background. I know who he is.
Who is he?
He won, is it season 3 of Hell's Kitchen?
Yes, exactly. You get a prize for that. Yeah, so volunteers love that. Sometimes they'd be like, oh, I've seen them getting their T-shirt signed or getting stuff like that. So that's just a, you know, fast-track, cool moment in the kitchen for some volunteers. So that's a really nice video. Rock says that he's better known for the video than for his time on Hell's Kitchen. So I did not mention the other activity that we do aside from the stand-up, sit-down activity. There'll be a link to the Atlanta Community Food Bank. They have a great Hunger 101 curriculum that you can use to help you develop different activities. The other activity is, it's called What Would You Cut? And when volunteers arrive early, I give them cards with a budget and ask them to, you know, individually or in small groups, discuss what they would cut out of their budget if they had an unexpected expense or some emergency that meant they would have to spend money that they didn't budget. And then I'd come back and rejoin the group and ask them why they would make the cuts, what would they cut. I've had all kinds of great answers. Recently, a guy said he would cut all taxes and not pay taxes. Yeah, we all want to do that. But again, it's an opportunity to open up a discussion about food insecurity and hunger and where the food goes that they will be preparing. And maybe even, you know, talk about how they can continue to contribute in different ways, whether it's to come back and volunteer or start up a campus kitchen at their schools if they're students. Again, it's important to know who your volunteers are and tailor whatever activities or whatever checking question based on who your audience is, the age, you know, where they're coming from and what they're interested in. So you should actually do some research if you know who's coming to volunteer, find out a little bit about them. Usually we reinforce some of the safety tips in the video because sometimes people just get really excited and think it's just a fun video and they don't take the dangling earrings off, or you know, they still chewing gum. So we try to reinforce some of that, and then we give them hairnets and aprons and take them back to the wash station, set them up at different stations in the kitchen. So usually if it's a large group, we'll count them off into 2 or 3 groups depending on the size. And it's really important that you're prepared and organized. You know, if volunteers come in and you're not organized, you're not prepared, it just, they're not going to be as productive or interested, and you just have to, you know, so many times I've heard you all run a tight ship, everything's so organized. So that's what you want to hear. So talking about, best practices, what's working well, we would like to hear from Lee University and St. Louis University. If you all can share what you currently do, that would be great.
Yeah, so, you all obviously don't have multiple locations that you're cooking in at least, and you're not maybe doing the same scale of operations as DC Central Kitchen, but there are ways that all of this is about giving context to the greater picture, which is something that you all can do as well. And so both Lee and St. Louis do this to a certain extent, and I think they'd all agree that they have areas to improve. But I think Brad is on the phone from Lee University. Are you there, Brad?
Yes, this is Brad.
Great, awesome. Would you share about the volunteer orientation that you do for one of your shifts that's been really impactful for you all?
Yeah, I would love to. Just to kind of give you a context about what it looks like here at the Campus Kitchen at Lee University, we have a few different branches that the Campus Kitchen feeds into. And one of those branches that I'm going to be talking about is crossover. And we have a group of students that get together every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock and go out into the local Cleveland community and deliver food that we get at our food bank through Campus Kitchen, as well as just build relationships with people and spend time with people there. So that's kind of the look. Students come in, some consistent and some irregular volunteers come in, because obviously with a lot of what we do, we have a lot of volunteer turnover. We gather food and then we break up into 8 different routes. Right now we have 8 different routes that go out into various places in the Cleveland community consistently every week to deliver food and build relationships. And one of the ways that we've really seen growth in consistency in our organization is just the way that we do take in volunteers and really inspire and empower them to fulfill the vision and the mission of our organization. So even deeper than delivering food for us at Crossover, it's about building those relationships. So relationship is one of the deepest needs of any human being. And oftentimes when you talk to people who are living in poverty or socioeconomic difficulties, they don't immediately mention their lack of material need, but oftentimes they mention how they feel isolated or lonely or don't feel like anyone's in their corner. And so we really take that into mind and say, like, we can be that relationship, we can be that someone that alleviates not only their material poverty, but also their relational poverty, if you will. And so when volunteers come in, we start with our core consistent leadership team and really want to allow them to take ownership of their routes. So we have 2 leaders on each route that go into their specific area of the community. And we meet together before 10 o'clock. So before everyone gets together on Saturday morning, we get together as a leadership team and continue to root ourselves deeper in the mission of why we're doing what we're doing. We'll share really deep and personal stories about what's going on with the relationships that we have on each of our routes and how we can encourage one another and advice to really continue serving better the people that we're coming in contact with in the community. And so it really starts with our leadership team and really empowering them to believe and continue to stay rooted in the why behind what we do. And then from there, we really give them ownership of their routes. And so they have people coming in that are pretty consistent as well on each of their individual routes. And we encourage our leaders to really engage the why with those inconsistent and sometimes consistent volunteers. But there's a time after 10 o'clock where we all get together, we kind of circle up, and we have at least one person share a story about, and usually someone that's been a consistent part of Crossover, share a story about a relationship that they've built. So I can tell you honestly that some of my best friends since I've been at school, I'm a student at Lee University, and some of my best friends are in the Cleveland community, living in some of the neighborhoods that I serve in. And I have many stories that I could share, but all of our volunteers that are consistent hopefully have those stories. Like, we want to empower every single person that comes through Crossover to build a relationship, and it's really that simple. And so to just say that, to say like, how easy is it for you as a maybe inconsistent volunteer to really build that relationship and create opportunity on the routes. Our route leaders are actively creating opportunity on those routes to build those relationships and start those conversations and get to know the people in the community. And hopefully that inconsistent service or that one-time, possibly what would have been a one-time thing, becomes a consistent thing because of the purpose and the fulfillment that is had when you do build that relationship. And so during that time, we have someone share about their experience with Crossover, and then really just impart that vision and that mission, and try to inspire people to really fulfill that, and because they can, it's possible. And then we'll have a time of prayer. We are a Christian university, so we're really rooted in that, and that really kind of unifies us and inspires us as a Christian community. And then just go out into the community. And so I don't know if all that made sense. I hope something can be taken away from that. But I think what's the biggest part is really allowing every individual that comes through volunteer orientation to take ownership of the why behind what we're all doing, behind the vision and the mission of your organization. Because ultimately then they become an active participant and a consistent leader, hopefully, in the mission of your organization.
Right on. Yep, and that's critical, and thanks for sharing that. Absolutely. I hear that a lot from our volunteers, that the experience in the kitchen really helps break down stereotypes, making that personal connection with someone you've never worked with before, or
yeah,
you had preconceived notions about what you would encounter, or that person's background, or not knowing that you have so much in common with them, and being able to bond over vegetables or delivering meals or whatever the case. It is a profound experience that really keeps people coming back. And and you all are doing a great job. So that's very impressive. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. And then Jenny from St. Louis, would you mind sharing with us what kind of volunteer orientation / training you do with your volunteers?
Sure. I think Brad did a really good job at talking about how you communicate to volunteers the why and draw that out. And we try to do that too, but we also have to focus a lot on the how because of our situation here. We do mostly scratch cooking, and we're in a kitchen that's we share a kitchen with an active dining services. They're cooking sometimes while we are. So there's a lot of logistics that need to be communicated quickly, particularly to new volunteers. So there's the ideal, and there's how it actually happens. A lot of times the ideal can happen during the summer or when we have a group. We take them through the kitchen. We give them a nice leisurely tour. But oftentimes, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this, people come in one at a time. Some people are late for a shift, and it takes a lot to try to give them all an orientation if they're all coming in at different times. So that's our challenge. And the way that we combat that is having 2 shift leaders, and one of them is kind of running the shift while the other, for the first 20 minutes or so, is just touring people around and giving orientations one by one. So that's just how it's come to happen here. In orientation, we talk about why we do what we do, who our clients are, where we get our food, kind of give context, as everyone's been saying. And then we show the equipment and how to use the equipment, how to use the dishwasher, where we take the knives from, where our pans go, where they can take the pans from, where they wash their hands, things like that, really practical things. And then we do a quick knife skills demo, just kind of like Rock did in the video. And then also we point out to them that our leader, introduce them to our leaders, because there's two, the one that they already know and then the one that's been cooking. And we say, you know, if you have any questions, talk to someone in an orange apron. These are our leaders, and they're the ones that you need to talk to, rather than just, you know, the first person you see. So that's how we do it here.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for sharing. And quick question, are all your volunteer students, or do you have volunteers from the community as well?
Mostly students during the school year. And if people are coming from the community, they'll generally be coming in a group. So then we can do a more leisurely orientation. But I'm just talking about a typical student-led cooking shift during the school year. And those would be mostly volunteers from the university.
Okay, great.
Is that question to me as well?
Yeah, so anybody else, I just want to get a sense of, is there anyone who only has student volunteers, or everyone has a mix?
The majority of our volunteers are students at Lee University. It is a student-led service organization that is supported by CKP. But we are working on building connections with some local churches as well. And because of the expansion and the consistency that we've experienced during that time of expansion, we are looking to break off into even more routes. And part of that, we've been talking to a few local churches to get involved in consistently serving with us. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I know there'll be a lot of sharing and learning when you bring new folks, new perspectives, new ideas into the mix. I think that's going to be a positive thing.
Yeah.
Great. So we talked about the orientation. We'll touch on the closing, what you do at the end of the great experience that everyone just had. Again, you want to thank, and you all did a great job. We appreciate your help. These are how many meals you have prepared, and reinforcing or reiterating where the food is going, who's going to be benefiting from their hard work. And you can even do a reflection question. What are you taking away from the experience? What was something new that you learned? And just as you already talked about sharing their, feelings or emotions, or just overall, what the experience was, is important. So definitely reflection helps close things out, and letting them know how they can stay involved, whether you want them back as a volunteer, or especially folks are interested in staying involved, you want to tell them what other opportunities are available, and again, finding out what their skills are, how you can utilize all the different skill sets that you may have in the room or outside. And if you have any kind of social media events that you need help with, or you need folks to attend, you can certainly tell them about that. And I have asterisks next to donate and catering and CKP. That's stuff that we at DC Central Kitchen let the volunteers know, that we are a nonprofit and we accept donations, or welcome donations, and that we have a catering business, and we tell them why we do catering and what social enterprises and how they can contribute to that as well, and also promote CKP. So again, closing things off with volunteers and wrapping up the day is important, and having some closure, what the next steps are, is important. And again, you want to follow up with folks after they've left. Send them a thank you email. It could be automated if you use Volunteer Hub. And I wanted to talk about part of the follow-up and communication I'll touch on in a minute. But you can also send a quick survey through SurveyMonkey or another application, just to find out what they learned or what the experience was, and any feedback that they may have for you in terms of improving the experience. And if you have any e-newsletters or any publications that you want to share on a regular basis. At least you'll have them in your database, or you'll have the email addresses and can correspond with them. So I know somebody mentioned latecomers. That's part of management. I usually call volunteers a week before their shift. In addition to them receiving a reminder email, they'll receive a reminder call as well. And I always remind them that the orientation starts 15 minutes before the shift and they have to be on time. And luckily for me, I'll have enough people who arrive on time to start without the latecomers. And so latecomers will get what they get. And then if they're coming back, they will know to come on time. I always tell them you have to come early next time you come to volunteer so you could get the full orientation. Because there's just so many moving pieces that we can't really break and stop and start over. You got to get people, constantly remind them to come early. And if it's a large group and they arrive late, of course, I would do the full orientation with them, depending on how late they came. Great. So
I just want to mention, Pertula did reference that DC Central Kitchen uses Volunteer Hub, which all of you probably hopefully have heard me say this too many times to count, have access to for free through us. So a lot of you are already using it. If Volunteer Hub for an online volunteer management system for sign-up, auto reminder emails, auto thank you emails, auto having everyone's email in a list. If that's something you're interested in, just let me know and I can get you set up with that. And I know some of you have asked me, or maybe I've talked to you about whether or not you do have the capability in Volunteer Hub to send out an auto confirmation email when someone signs up, an auto reminder a certain number of days out of their shift, and an auto thank you email. And I know I've never given any of you a very good answer as to whether or not you should do all of those emails, but Pertula, the expert, does. DC Central Kitchen does have all of those emails. So after today's webinar, probably tomorrow, I will be sending out not only the recording of this email, but I'll also send you the body of that thank you email that they send. I will send you the link to their volunteer survey so that you can see the kinds of questions they ask, and we're happy to share any other resources that you all might want as well. And you'll see that the Hunger 101 curriculum she was talking about is here on the presentation, and I'll make sure to include that link as well for that what would you cut activity and others. So can we move? We did have a question. So now is a great time. We're going to talk about if anyone wants to bring up a challenge you faced when it comes to providing a great volunteer experience. But we did have a question that came through that I want to pull out to throw it to the group, and that is, how do other schools do their orientations? Do you do one at the beginning of every shift, or one at the beginning of every semester, or something else? This school is used to doing one at the beginning of each semester, which means that they don't have high volunteer turnover at all. So has anyone sort of thought about why one or the other might be better, changed? You do one because of a certain reason. Can you help this Campus Kitchen out? So do the majority of you do volunteer orientations before every shift? Or does anyone do it at the beginning of the semester besides the Campus Kitchen at UVA?
We, excuse me, this is Emily at Gonzaga. We do it at the beginning of the semester.
Our why do you do it that way?
What was that? Why do we? We primarily have consistent volunteers throughout the semester. We like them to commit to those shifts so we kind of know who's going to be where, and we don't have nobody on one shift. We just like to know ahead of time. So we like our students to commit. We primarily have student volunteers from the university during the school year, and we do several of these very same kind of orientations scheduled at the beginning of each semester. But we occasionally will have someone new show up in the middle of the semester that has not gone through a volunteer training, and at that point we would do an individual one.
So you've just worked it out so that the culture of your Campus Kitchen is that if you're volunteering, you're pretty much committing to the same shift for the entire semester.
Yes.
Which is pretty sweet if you can swing that, because like Emily said, like you can plan on who you have and you know what kind of skills they have.
And that way we don't have shifts that nobody attends. All of a sudden, nobody signed up for it, and then I have a student leader that doesn't have anybody.
Right.
Okay.
What about anyone else? Does anyone else do a beginning of semester shift orientation, I mean? Or did you used to and you don't anymore for a particular reason? I don't know how common that is. I guess it's not very common.
Well, I don't usually have our recurring volunteers repeat the orientation every time they come in. So I usually take them back to the kitchen. They don't come 15 minutes early, most of them. They come just a few minutes early, and we just get them set up so they don't have to go through the orientation each time.
As entertaining as watching rock.
Yeah.
So a couple of these challenges, I'll just pull out so we can just wrap up our conversation. One of the challenges I'm seeing is helping students get a big picture realization of hunger. I'm not sure if that's in the U.S. or in your community. Does anyone feel like they have a really good resource for that, or activity, or something that you say that you think gives your volunteers a really good picture of hunger?
I guess I just have a quick thought.
Yeah.
Within, I think it's just sometimes as simple as starting the conversation or creating a venue for a discussion during volunteer training. So really forcing them to confront the issue, forcing them to see and think about the big picture. I don't have any specific resources in mind right now to really engage, but for them to take ownership of the issue of poverty or world hunger or local poverty and local hunger, and start asking the hard questions and challenging the preconceived notions that Pertula was talking about. So I think sometimes it's as simple as just really engaging the issue and having that discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, the stand-up activity, with the cards that Pertula was talking about, I think that there might be some really creative ways that, you all could ask a question that maybe doesn't get at the health of salad, but maybe more like gets at food access in your community, or why you're serving the people you're serving, or someone else asked, said that a challenge is communicating the underlying issues associated with food insecurity. Like, there are probably really creative ways to say, stand up if you believe this, or if this applies to your life, and then kind of get into that deeper conversation if you're able to take the time to do it.
And you all don't have to reinvent the wheel. I have dozens of facts on food insecurity and hunger and homelessness. And, I have lots of, well, not probably not in your community, but I have a couple of national ones, I think. But we definitely have DC. We talk about the percentage of people who experience hunger in the district. Those are facts that come up during that activity. So you could definitely, like I said, tailor the activities for your audience and what you want to get out of the group.
And we'll see if we can give some of you all those facts that might apply to you. But to find out stats about hunger in your specific communities, Feeding America has a great, it's a map. It's called Map the Meal Gap. I'll type it here since that probably all sounded the same. Map the Meal Gap, and you can just Google it. And it is a map that breaks down by state and by county rates of food insecurity in like entire populations and populations just of children. So that can be a really good way to get information about what's happening in your community as well. It's a really good resource. All right, so I think at this point we're going to wrap up because we've taken a good amount of your time. Is there anything else that you want to say?
I just want to thank you all again for attending the webinar. I hope it was useful, and thanks for sharing all the great work that you all are doing. Thanks.
So we will send you, like I said, an email tomorrow with all of the resources we talked about, plus some, to hopefully get you guys thinking about ways that you can empower your volunteers to take more ownership of their shifts and give them a better context for what's happening. On a totally different tangent, since I have you on the phone call, If your school, if your campus kitchen has not registered for your back to school box yet, that link was sent to all of the main leaders of your campus kitchen last week. We would love if you would register for it. You can see on the screen so far who has registered, and we would love everyone to do it by next Wednesday so we can make sure we send you your back to school box to the correct address. And that's it. So thanks everyone for joining us, and I hope you all have enjoy the rest of your day.